You are listening to Keep Canada Weird.
Handsome Aaron Airport. We're here for Keep Canada Weird, episode 176. Almost 200 hours of Keeping Canada Weird we've done, but we don't need to celebrate that milestone. Let me start by asking, sir, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I am just getting home from an improv rehearsal. So I'm all amped up and
Okay. I know you love promoting things, so tell us again this week.
I did say that just for that reason.
Yeah, for anyone who missed it last week, tell us again. What's going on with your improv?
Well, it was 2 weeks ago that I first mentioned it. I didn't mention it last week.
I would have edited out.
Yeah. This is my last chance to mention it, so I am going to force it on you. But I am doing an improv show for the Cape Breton Comedy Festival this year. So our improv show will be on August 21st. That's a Thursday night at the Red Barn in Sydney River, Cape Breton. So anybody in the area who's interested in improv comedy can come down to the Red Barn, get your tickets early. You got to get them online at the CapeBretonComedyFest.com. You can order tickets there and come on down, support the show.
I will be there supporting the show. I'm very excited for it. Tickets are only about $20, give or take some change, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually how much tickets are, but it doesn't matter how much they are. Just buy them anyway.
Before we get into the show, we often unveil our special drinks. I already cracked mine open as you were going on and on about the Improv Festival. I'm drinking an A&W root beer with no sugar, trying to lay off the caffeine tonight just because with all the fires and risk of fires, I've been a bit nervous. I'm thinking I'm going to cut the caffeine until the world goes back to normal. A&W root beer.
Ooh. Oh.
What do you got?
Oh, I have the same as last week because I bought two last week. 2 tall cans of Blue Moon, which is a Belgian white beer. And I am having the second one tonight. So I'm going to crack that open right now for you. I'm going to take a sip. Nice and cold. It's sweating, so my hand is completely covered in beer sweat. So
could be worse. It's a good night for a cold beer, but we're here tonight to keep Canada weird by seeking out, highlighting, exploring all the unique and offbeat news stories from the past week. But before we get into them, we have some things to catch up on. First of all, I just want to start the show with something that I think has probably affected a lot of listeners of the show and hopefully hasn't affected you. It's a bit of a PSA. Now, I mentioned there that I and many others are quite concerned about the risk of wildfire, but it seems our forested areas aren't the only battleground. Health Canada just announced a major recall for various styles of Field Shear brand heated socks after reports that they can cause blisters and burns. The problem comes from a dangerous mix of heat, friction, moisture, and pressure, and that combination of forces has led to 19 reported incidents of burns in Canada and 10 in the United States. For anyone out there who has the Field Shear brand heated socks on, Health Canada is urging you to stop using them immediately. Contact Field Shear Apparel Technologies for a refund or replacement and dispose of the lithium-ion battery packs according to your local hazardous waste rules.
wow.
Were you affected by the great electronic sock recall of 2025, Aaron?
My socks are back in the Stone Age, so my socks do not heat up. They are not electronic. They are not connected by Bluetooth. They are not robot socks. They are simply traditional cotton. Put them on, wear them, don't catch fire socks.
There could be some listeners out there who maybe have these socks and need to dispose of them. But really, when that recall came across the Keep Canada Weird desk that I'm sitting at here, my first reaction was just surprised that there are socks with lithium-ion batteries. It's like the amount of things that are battery powered and rechargeable now blow my mind. My video doorbell, every so often I have to bring it in the house and recharge it. I was at my friend's house, Randy, and he had to plug in like some weird cigarette thing to like USB to charge like his cigarette. Imagine having to charge your socks. Like it's going to be a cold day tomorrow, so I'm going to plug my socks in overnight. It just seems ridiculous.
It seems a little overkill. I would just put on multiple pairs of socks if I really wanted to keep my feet more warm. But slippers do the thing. But I could see people who hike in the fall, people who camp in the fall or the winter wanting to wear these socks for sure because they're going to heat up their feet. And wet, cold feet are certainly a killer out in the woods. But
Yeah.
for this to be happening right now in the dead of summer, I'm surprised by that.
Well, I imagine these incidents aren't happening right now in the dead of summer. What it probably is the amount of time for like investigations in Health Canada actually say like we're recalling these or you need to recall these. The wheels of recall probably turn quite slowly. But a disgusting part about this is if you think of what the problem actually is, again, it says Health Canada says that the problem comes from a mix of heat, like the heat generated from the sock, friction, like your foot like rubbing around in your shoe, the moisture that comes from your feet, and the pressure of like the weight of your body on your feet, thus on the sock. It's just like basically what's happening is these electronic socks have wires in them, and your sweaty feet rubbing around in your shoes are breaking those wires down and leading to people get like electrocuted and burned. That's what you get for wearing socks with batteries in them.
There's almost an irony to it where you have the sock is designed to heat up and warm your feet, but then the perspiration from your feet getting warm is causing the short circuit to cause the fires, right? To make your feet even more warm to the point where you die.
This whole thing about the socks and whether or not it's ridiculous will serve as I guess, foreshadowing of what's going to come, because we will be talking about kind of the stupidity of humans and why, if the government does know, in fact, that there are aliens somewhere out there, they should not tell us about it. The humanity that wears socks with batteries is not ready to learn some harsh truths about our universe. That'll be on full display as we get going into the stories, but we still can't jump into them yet. One more thing to talk about before we introduce this week's weird news stories. We have to provide an update on one of the stories we discussed last week. I'm sure you remember Timmy, the mini pig in the LaSalle area of Quebec.
I do. Timmy was being threatened to be evicted from his home with his owner because the owner did not fill out the proper regulatory paperwork to basically register that this pig was in existence, and then the city of Montreal was going to get rid of it.
You were paying attention. You're exactly right. That was what was going to happen. It seemed like a last-ditch effort. They went on the news to plead for Timmy's bacon to be saved. We got an update of that story. Listen to this.
And there's been a bit of a reprieve for Timmy the pig. Timmy is a mini pig who lives in LaSalle. It appears he is going to be allowed to stay in LaSalle, at least for now. His owner, Sandra Popetto, has been given a deadline of this week to get rid of Timmy, but she's just received word that the borough might grant an exemption.
In the meantime, I've been permitted to keep Timmy at home with me while the matter is under review, and no fines will be issued during that time. So that's already a huge relief. Very happy about that. Timmy is my baby. He's not going anywhere. He's staying with me wherever I go. He's going to follow me everywhere. So I'm the only mom he's ever known. I don't want to put him on a farm. There's no way.
All that to say, it seems as though Timmy's bacon is saved. We made a pretty good case last week in episode 175 of Timmy actually relocating to a farm. I wonder if she was specifically speaking to us when she said at the end, Timmy's not going to a farm. Because I don't remember them really mentioning that in the first news piece. I think that came from us.
That was you and I just speculating that if Timmy were to be removed, Timmy would be placed into a farm. But we're extremely uneducated individuals. We know nothing about pig placement. So we apologize to any listeners who took that as truth and told everyone they know that Timmy is going to a farm.
But I'm glad that they gave her a bit of a break. And I think she's probably in the clear. If they were going to enforce that rule, they couldn't have delayed that. If they're going to give her more time, they're in now. She just needs to drag this out and they'll move on.
Yeah.
Some other thing will come up.
Yeah, and get more media attention at that point in time, because apparently if you get media attention on any kind of issue that you're having, it'll get solved instantly.
Yeah.
So
It's the only way to fix a problem. If you buy something and you don't like it, I don't know, socks with batteries, and you want to return them and the store won't take them, just call the news.
and they'll come out because they have nothing better to do.
Yeah. And if they do, just call them the next day, and they may not have anything better to do that day.
And if they don't come out, then call another news organization about that news organization and do a story about them not doing a story on your pig or your socks.
I like it. Well, we got a lot to get into. That's it for the updates. We got a whole lot of weird Canadian news to break down. Our first bundle of stories we'll get to after our first break, and it's going to be a collection of stories that make a pretty good case for why the government shouldn't tell Canadians about the existence of aliens if they do exist. Let's get to those stories of Canadians behaving unreasonably after this short break. One sec, okay? I shaved and I realized I missed a spot and it's just driving me crazy. One sec.
And you have to do it now.
Right this second. One sec.
Okay. Go shave. Jordan is showering and shaving. This will be probably about a 45-minute break, everybody. So you can go and do it. Maybe you should go shave during this break. That'll be a good thing to do. Jordan is shaving. You can shave. I'm not going to shave because I have a beard. So I'm just going to text on my phone.
Handsome Aaron Airport. At the beginning of last week's episode 175, we talked about the risk of wildfire and how the province of Nova Scotia has banned its residents from entering forested areas. At the beginning of this episode 176, we again talked about some of the nervousness surrounding the risk of wildfires here in Nova Scotia. Well, a week after Nova Scotia's province-wide ban on entering the woods took effect, one Cape Breton man, of course, decided to challenge it. And he did so by filming himself walking into the forest in protest. His act of defiance, of course, has gone viral because people can't look away from stuff like that. But it's also led to a $28,000 walk in the woods. Here's the story of Jeff Evely, the man who intentionally got a ticket by going into the woods in Nova Scotia.
A week has passed since the Nova Scotia-wide ban on entering the woods came into effect, and some citizens are already testing its limits. A Cape Breton man's videos went viral over the weekend after he went to the Department of Natural Resources office in Cox Heath and announced he was going into the woods in protest.
So I want to challenge this order in court, and the only way for me to do that is to get the fine. So I'm not trying to make trouble for you guys, okay? I just want a piece of Tim Houston.
Jeffrey Evely, who is a right-wing political candidate for the People's Party of Canada, got thousands of comments on his videos, some calling his actions a cry for attention, while others were outraged on his behalf.
If I defy their orders to go into the woods, then I will be fined, and they also said that they would double my fine to $50,000. So I'm going to walk down here and go into these woods.
He was handed the fine immediately upon exiting the wooded area, plus taxes.
$28,870.50.
Oh, man. I just got to ask right off the jump here. Did you actually watch his video?
Yeah, I did see the video. I saw a few videos from him since this woods ban has been in effect here in Nova Scotia. There was one where he went to Petersfield, I believe it was, and they had certain parts of it taped off to say that you can't go into those parts, but you were allowed to go into certain other parts, because that park is like, it's part of it is park and part of it is trail. So I think they were kind of blocking off the trail parts. So he was going around saying, I guess this is woods, but this isn't woods. And this over here is woods, but this isn't woods. And making a big thing about it.
Yeah, I can imagine the type of content that would be. But this particular video related to him going into the woods, what he does is he goes to like a government office and he walks in while live streaming and he explains to them, like, I want to fight this. I want to fight this rule that the government put down. I want to fight it in court. The only way to fight it in court is by getting a ticket and defending myself against this ticket. He says in that news clip we listened to, I just want a piece of Tim Houston. Tim Houston is our province's premier. So what he's saying to the people at the government office is, I want to battle this out with the premier. The only way to do it is if you get a ticket, so that way I can end up in court. And there's a bit of background in that because apparently he's complained about a similar thing in the past, some kind of ban on outdoor activity, but a court wouldn't hear his argument because they said the ban was lifted, you never got a ticket, like there's nothing to, we're not going to argue about whether or not a ban that's passed is legal or not. He doesn't want that to happen again, so he went in the woods. He told them when he went to the office, I'm going in the woods. I don't want any trouble. I don't want to give you guys trouble. Just come give me the ticket. And they did it. And I didn't realize it had tax on it. It ended up being a little over 28 grand. I don't care who you are. That's a good chunk of money.
Well, he has a lawyer from, I think, Ontario, who is going to be his legal counsel throughout this whole process. And I think the argument is not over the fact of there was a law that I knew was in place and I broke it intentionally. So I don't have an argument. The argument is that this law shouldn't be in place at all.
Would you stick your neck out $28,000 far to prove that point, though? You know,
I wouldn't, because I don't have $28,000 in case I lose.
Maybe behind the scenes he had some kind of like special interest kind of like group that was willing to say, you know, if it ends up sticking, we'll pay it or we'll crowdfund it or something. I could see that.
I'm sure he does.
When you look at the discourse surrounding this online, it is divided. I'm seeing people call him the biggest idiot in Nova Scotia, and I'm also seeing people call him a hero who's standing up against, you know, government overreach. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in the hero category, that's for sure. I would definitely put him in the more towards the attention, the social media star kind of.
Yeah, I could see that
thing, you know, the dance, you know, that people do when they see an opportunity. They're like, wow, think of the traction I'm going to get throughout this entire ordeal of battling this ticket, going into the woods on purpose to prove this point. Throughout the whole legal proceedings, you know, he's going to have all this content that's going to really push his name, because I think he wants to be someone who's in the limelight of the, you know, provincial political scene, right?
Yeah, I could see that. But it's not just him doing it. He's being encouraged and egged on by some media. Like I've seen so many posts and interviews with him where it's like a picture of, say, like him holding the ticket, and the caption will be something like, "This man got a $28,000 fine for walking into the woods in Nova Scotia." And it's put together like, how ridiculous is that? But in the actual context of what's going on here in Nova Scotia and what he was doing, it's way different than he got a ticket for walking into the woods. He got a ticket for intentionally disobeying a public safety, like emergency kind of act because of the real serious risk of wildfires in Nova Scotia. And there's no question that it's a huge risk right now in Nova Scotia. The government's got to do what they got to do. And yeah, they're going to have a fight for against him over if he pays this ticket, but it's going to be one I'll be interested in watching. I'm kind of excited for the showdown between the guy Jeff Evely, willing to do this, and our premier, Tim Houston.
Right. It is going to be an interesting showdown, and I'm very interested to see the arguments of why he shouldn't pay the ticket and why the ban is unlawful. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be an interesting ride, and we'll see how it turns out in the end.
Yeah. Now, this was just the first story that illustrates why, if the government does know there is in fact aliens out there, they shouldn't let people know. You know, we know there's a wildfire risk. The government knows it. They try to stop us, and we get situations like this playing out. But here's another bit of evidence why perhaps humanity isn't ready to deal with disturbing, controversial truths of our universe. We have the latest in our series of dumb online trends that people are getting hurt doing. This is an interesting one. The latest viral social media trend that's injuring Canadians, it's especially dumb. It's inspired by Nicki Minaj's 2013 music video for a song called High School. And ultimately, the social media TikTok viral video trend tests people's balance. It involves doing a stunt where you squat while wearing high heels with one leg crossed across the other, all the while balancing precariously on an object. That's a hard thing to explain. Do you get it?
It's a bit of a tongue twister, but I get it. I've seen.
Instead of calling it the Nicki Minaj trend, you could call it the trend involving individuals wearing high heels balancing precariously on objects while crossing their legs. Here's the news clip that'll explain a little bit about the Nicki Minaj Challenge and why it's so stupid.
So I figured I'm seeing all these bigger creators doing it, so I'll try and take a stab at it myself.
And so Molly Cohn put on her high heels like hundreds of others online and went on to balance on a jar of hair elastics, hoping to get more traction for her hair tie business.
I used to be a gymnast, so my balance is pretty good.
Something that Melody Mulligan also says she's good at.
I saw everyone doing it with high heels and I thought, well, doing that on a Pilates reformer is probably not the best thing to do. So I thought, why don't I just do it in my grip socks?
It's called the Nicki Minaj Challenge. Individuals wearing high heels balancing precariously on objects while crossing their legs. A social media trend one Toronto doctor says carries far more risk than reward.
There can be a wide variety or array of injuries you can get. Maybe it's just a small sprain, you just need to ice it and you'll be fine. But if you do get a fracture or you do get a meniscal tear in your knee, this may require a surgical intervention. If you fall on your backside, that could result in a spine injury.
Like this Russian influencer who reportedly fractured her spine attempting the challenge. Dr. Jihad Abu Ali says he sees about one patient a week injured while performing a social media challenge. And while he hasn't seen injuries due to this specific trend, he says it does mimic other challenges where he's seen people get hurt. Overall, Dr. Abu Ali says unless you're a trained professional, the temptation might not be worth the risk.
Be safe and please don't show up to my clinic because you tried to challenge.
Faith in humanity is getting lower and lower and more precarious as balancing on an object with my legs crossed while wearing high heels.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a strange one in the sense that I feel like there's been weirder social media trends that people have gotten injured from or have been poisoned from, or the Tide Pod thing comes to mind. I remember when people were eating Tide Pods.
It's just so ridiculous. But this one is just so unexpected. Like, it's the Nicki Minaj song that it's inspired by. It's a song from 2013. I had never even heard of the song High School by Nicki Minaj. I went into the music video and I was kind of skimming through it, trying to see when during the video she like does this weird squatting down on high heels. And she's just like kind of sitting on the side of a pool with her legs crossed wearing high heels. And it only happens for a second in the video. I just don't know how you can see this moment in a music video and somehow that turns to people all around the world taking part in this bizarre challenge. And I love the way the newscaster put it. The challenge involves individuals wearing high heels balancing precariously on objects while crossing their legs. Mm-hmm. What a ridiculous statement.
Remember in the 80s and the 90s, there was a big effort by media companies like television companies to make sure that children weren't replicating the moves at home. So there was always like a PSA at the end of episodes or at the start of episodes of TV shows where it was like, we're trained professionals, please don't try this at home, or this and that, because children would, if they were watching wrestling or G.I. Joe or whatever it is that they were into, and then they would practice those moves on their friends, or they would reenact those things with their siblings, and they would get hurt. But it was really just predominantly children that you had to worry about and remind them, like, please, children, don't try this at home. But now it's adults on social media that can't help themselves, and they have to try these dangerous things themselves because, again, it's that insatiable desire and need for likes and shares and content and followers and all of these things that motivate grown adults to do this stuff that is clearly dangerous, that they are probably going to get hurt.
And even if they didn't get hurt, the videos, you still look ridiculous. Like, you're really uncomfortable, like, balancing precariously on something. The whole thing is ridiculous. I wonder if social media needs to have, as you're scrolling through videos and stuff, every so often you scroll to the next one and instead it's like an ad or something. You scroll to the next one and you're back to content that you want to see. I wonder if every so often, every 15th scroll or something or swipe, a little message pops up like reminding you not to do anything stupid or dangerous. It's not worth it. Almost like to talk you out of it.
Yeah, but the only issue with that is social media companies are not going to want to do that because they want people replicating the trends. And if they tell people not to do those things, then trends aren't going to catch fire through social media, and therefore making social media kind of almost obsolete. So they want people to do these things.
I don't recall the last time I heard like, don't try this at home, like we're professionals. And you know what else I think has gone away? It just popped into my head. You remember, maybe it's still here, but I feel like it's been a long time since I looked in a rear view or like the side mirror on a car and saw objects in mirror are closer than they appear. Is that still on mirrors of cars?
I don't know. I'll have to look and see next time. It wasn't anything that I was really thinking about. So I'll have to take a peek next time I'm in the car. But Meatloaf had that song, Objects in the Rearview Mirror May Appear Closer Than They Are. Do you remember that song?
Yeah, I do. I love Meatloaf.
Yeah.
As a performer, I know towards the end of his life, like Hulk Hogan, he became a controversial figure in politics and all this stuff. But as far as singing, oh man, Meatloaf can let it rip. And in fact, one of the best performances of the American national anthem was Meatloaf at a baseball game. You can find it on YouTube. The guy is like an amazing singer, but he did the Star Spangled Banner or whatever, the American national anthem at this baseball game, and he just like rocked the place. It was pretty awesome. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent. We got to get to the next story. If walking into the woods to get a fine, to prove a point, doesn't make you think humans aren't ready to learn complicated truths, if our willingness to balance precariously on objects in high heels with our legs crossed doesn't make you question things, this next story may perk your ears a little bit. This is the story of the BC man who recently filmed a fairy of all things. Steve McBeath installed security cameras at his home for a practical reason, to keep an eye on critters and the occasional intruder. But one night, his camera captured something far more magical, a shimmering humanoid figure that looked a lot like a fairy. Here's the story of the fairy caught on film on Vancouver Island.
Before he ever imagined seeing something magical, Steve McBeath installed security cameras to be purely practical.
Able to see who's been wandering around your place. This cat visits pretty much every night. And
whenever the camera's triggered, Steve immediately gets a notification on his phone saying if it's a human or an animal.
All sorts of critters are constantly moving past it.
But there have been a couple times when the camera captured people.
The person that walked through the front yard had actually done some break-ins that same evening.
So when he got a similar notification the other night, Steve feared the worst.
And it said that it saw a person.
And what was the person doing?
Well, it wasn't a person. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before.
It appeared in the left corner of the screen, a bright white dot that suddenly turned and flew straight at the camera.
Well, it looked kind of humanoid, like it was a shimmering silver color.
A fairy?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
While that magical moment was quickly replaced by a mundane explanation, Steve took the time to post the fairy video on his local community page.
The very first one was a guy that said a rolled-up newspaper would take care of that.
But after that, more than a couple people mentioned Tinkerbell. Hundreds expressed their gratitude, and tens of thousands watched the magic unfold.
Just stunned with the response to this.
But even better is seeing this video of one of his granddaughters, Isabel, watching the fairy footage for the first time, in awe.
Always remember the time their goofy old granddad got himself on TV because of the fly that flew by his security camera.
I like that guy, but what I can't tell is, did he think it was a fairy? Like something possessed him to post the video online, although in this news clip he's kind of laughing about it, like the silly video and whatever.
It's arguable that when he first saw it and he posted it online because he was like, what is this? Like, look at look at what this could be. And then people are like, it's clearly a bug. And he's like, oh, okay, then you're probably right.
It is clearly a bug. For people who like what it is, what we see in the news clip, it looks like footage from his video doorbell or whatever. And it looks to me like a dragonfly or the type of bug that I call a dandy long legs. It's like a giant mosquito with huge long legs. And they're actually quite gentle, those insects. They don't bother anyone, but it seems like
they're
one
very
just
delicate.
they are delicate. Because I remember as a kid, I could kind of catch them, and you're always fear like pulling their legs off and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it looks like one got a little bit too close to his camera. The video camera picked it up, but it was out of focus because it was too close to the camera. So it just looks like this weird shimmering object passing by. I could see how it maybe for a second may look like a fairy, but of all the supernatural creatures that may or may not be real, fairy is very low on the list of possibilities and likely possibilities in my mind. I don't think there's a lot of people who believe in fairies.
Yeah, it's such a strange story again, I talk about this all the time where I wonder, why did the news come down and cover this when it's clearly a bug?
Yeah,
it doesn't even look like a fairy to me. It doesn't even when I was watching this video earlier today, and I was like, oh, okay, it's going to look like a fairy, whatever it is I'm about to see, and I'm like, it doesn't look anything like a fairy to me.
All I could imagine is, again, the whole slow news day thing. But for whatever reason, this man, something compelled him to get that video off the camera and posts it to Facebook, and it must have had enough discussion that somehow it made its way to the news, and the news said, you know what, nothing else going on, go see what that guy has to say about the fairy. And you know, I don't want to complain ever about slow news day stories, because I think they're what make this show, and they're my favorite kind of stories. I love when they cover the nonsense like this.
Yeah, it's like they're sitting in the newsroom, in the boardroom, and they're deciphering what the stories for the evening news are going to be, and it's like, all right, we got Putin's coming to Alaska to meet with Trump to talk about ending the Ukraine war. It's like, yeah. And it's like, we also, before we cover that, we do have a story about an old man who, in his security camera, caught something that doesn't look like a fairy at all, but he says it does, but it really doesn't at all. Should we cover that instead? Yes, we should definitely cover the fairy that doesn't look like a fairy. That's clearly a bug.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a place in this modern world for like a revamped National Enquirer. You remember that whole magazine tabloid thing you'd see at the grocery store? It was, Elvis lives. He was spotted in Florida. Bat Boy does this thing. Woman gives birth to an alien, and all that. Those kinds of stories. That just somehow it disappeared, and I don't know if there's anything that ever took its place. That just seemed to go away because people actually believe that stuff, but also people read it for like kind of the comedic and absurdity value of it. But
yeah,
maybe we need something like that.
I would never buy them, but I would certainly, when I was waiting in line at the grocery store at the register, I would pick it up and skim through it.
Yeah, so what the hell is this? I never really bought it either, but I would love to work for them. Like, it would be awesome to work for a news organization that doesn't actually cover news. It just makes up crazy stuff. It's just like working for a comic book company, except instead of drawing comics, you're like doing like a news version of it.
Well, you could start one now that would have ChatGPT write all of your made up stories for you.
Yeah, that's the magic wouldn't be there though.
It's not about magic. It's just about putting garbage in grocery aisles.
Yeah, that's a good point. And do they still make Archie comics? That's the other thing that was always in the aisles with them. I think they probably do. Riverdale hasn't shut down.
They probably make them. Yeah. They probably make them, but I don't think they sell them in grocery stores anymore.
It's a shame. The world's gone to hell.
Yeah, well, that's why you got to start believing in fairies.
On that note, the ever optimist Handsome Aaron Airport. Let's take our second break. When we get back, we have two stories that may even be weirder than the man filming a fairy with his video doorbell. We got two I call WTF stories after this break. Handsome Aaron Airport, the first of our two WTF Canadian news stories. It's going to start with a listener voicemail. This story made its way to the Keep Canada Weird desk by way of one of our many Keep Canada Weird correspondents. Here's what Kelsey had to say.
Hello, Jordan and Aaron. This is your reporter Kelsey from Washington State. I just finished your most recent episode from August 8th, and from the cover art, I was totally expecting you to cover a story that I truly think is another example of the animal uprising, since there were geese and flames and fire in the cover art. But to my surprise, you missed a really important story. Last week in BC, there was an osprey that dropped a fish onto a power line, causing a pretty large brush fire in the area. Now, I don't know about you, but to me this seems like animal uprising activity for sure. They're learning how to start forest fires. Maybe the government knows something else and that's why they closed the forests. Anyways, thanks all. Love the show. Bye.
I love that a correspondent from Washington is filling us in on a story we missed from British Columbia, but I'm glad she did. Kelsey, that is a good story. Obviously, wildfires are a serious concern here in Canada, but this is one of the stranger fire stories I've heard all summer. I'm going to play you a bit of local news reporting on what actually happened here, and then we can talk about the Osprey attack on maybe our power grid. Listen to a bit more of the story.
Fire crews in Ashcroft were able to contain a grass fire that they discovered had a fishy origin. The blaze happened Wednesday morning south of the town on the east side of Highway 1. It was quickly contained thanks to firefighters, nearby ranch staff, and hydro crews. As for what caused the fire, it was determined an osprey dropped a fish onto power lines, leading to sparks falling onto dry grass. The fried fish was found at the site. It's believed the bird of prey whose catch got away flew off uninjured.
I guess this is just proof of like how dry it is out there and how many things can lead to a wildfire. An osprey drops a fish and that sets this whole thing into motion. Imagine when whoever the fire marshal was that was investigating this cause of a random grass fire in the middle of nowhere, and he has we only got one clue. And in the center of this field, there's just like a scorched fish under a power line. How do they put it together that it was an osprey?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Do they have some footage somewhere from maybe security footage from a building nearby where they saw it happen? Like, how did they know? Like, if you saw a fish in the middle of this grass fire that was all charred up, how would you think that? How would you even come to that conclusion? Well, somebody could have dropped that fish there unrelated to the fire.
Maybe, but I believe the fish was like right under the power line though, and there was nothing.
Maybe it had lines on it, like the way there's grill marks. When you barbecue a burger, maybe there was just the power line shaped lines on this grilled fish from when it dropped on the power lines, and they're like, the only way it could have dropped on a power line is from a very specific bird.
Yeah, because where this happened, watching the news clip, it's not like it's in a busy area or right next to water or anything. It just seems like it's like this field in the middle of just off the side of a highway or something like that. There's no reason for a fish to be there. So I guess the only explanation would be the fish came from the sky. So was it some kind of heavenly miracle of fish raining down? Probably not. How else could a fish get that high up? Would someone have a fish in a helicopter? We checked the flight radar and all this stuff, and there was no planes or helicopters in the areas that could be dropping fish. But we do have osprey. When whichever fire investigator came up with that theory, he must have been pretty cautious explaining his thoughts on this to his peers.
Mm-hmm. He caused the fire. And this is his elaborate lie to get himself out of it. It wasn't me. I didn't start the fire. It was an osprey. It was carrying a fish. I saw the whole thing. And he dropped the fish. And the fish hit the power line. And then the fish caught fire and then landed on the ground and then caught everything on fire. And please stop asking me questions. I was home.
That's quite likely. And what this news clip doesn't discuss, and when we heard Kelsey's her voicemail, she suggests this could be related to the animal uprising, which is a phenomenon we've been tracking since the beginning of Keep Canada Weird, a phenomenon that involves animals seemingly finding themselves unsatisfied with their place in the pecking order of life on Earth at this point, and seemingly taking steps to knock humans down and take their spot on top of us. Kelsey suggests this could be an attack related to the animal uprising. If the osprey did drop the fish and Aaron isn't right, and it was just a very imaginative person trying to cover their tracks, one caveat to the story that we should talk about just briefly is this didn't only start a fire, it also knocked out power for a significant area. The fact that one dropped fish could light a fire and knock down power is if that was a planned attack, that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, the animals have found a way to completely annihilate our power grid. And without power, we're completely useless.
Absolutely. And think of this aspect of it. So it knocks out power in community A. Meanwhile, there's a fire in the middle of nowhere. So all the emergency responders from community A need to rush out of community A to fight the fire, leaving community A without power and unprepared to defend itself from whatever the next wave of the attack is. If one osprey can set up community A for that kind of vulnerability, yeah, that's when the animal uprising happens. I think it's going to happen pretty quick.
It's just going to be us running around in the dark, getting hit in the head by fish.
That is some true WTF news, but we got some more here. This story, this is the one I want to go out on. This is something between what a weird news story and something much like a Keep Canada Weird salute. Every so often we find a Canadian in the news who deserves a tip of the hat, a high five, a pat on the back, and a thumbs up and a good work keeping Canada weird, buddy. We got one tonight.
That's a lot of praise to give somebody all at once, You're tipping your hat, you're saluting them, you're patting them on the back, you're kissing them on the mouth.
You let me know if this guy deserves it. This involves a fella named Andy Campbell in his 1985 Toyota Tercel. The car may look like a regular car, but under the hood and behind the odometer lies his remarkable Keep Canada Weird story. A little sedan in Nova Scotia has now traveled over 1.2 million kilometers. Here's the story of Andy Campbell in his Toyota Tercel.
Andy Campbell's ride may not look like much to your average driver. Maybe a bit dated, a bit low-tech, a throwback to an earlier time when cassettes were in vogue and backup cameras were just a gleam in a car designer's eye. But if you take a closer look, you'll see there's something special about this 1985 Toyota Tercel. The only thing wrong with this Tercel is that the odometer doesn't go up high enough. It says 253,000 kilometers, but it's missing a 1, as in 1 million.
So I am looking for the next million, but geez, I don't know if I'm going to live long enough.
Don't believe him? He's got proof, and he carries it with him wherever he goes.
There's one of all of the 9s and the 0s, right? See, the 1.6 kilometer. Brand new car, man, 1 kilometer on it, right?
Campbell bought the car in Halifax for $2,500 around 1990. Over the years, he stashed away enough spare parts to try to keep it going for $1 million more.
There's heater motors, radiator fans and stuff, right? Instead of going to Toyota, I come here.
Campbell says he's not really a car guy or a Toyota guy or even a Tercel guy. It's just his Tercel that he's so passionate about.
I like that story. I like the power of being able to give a little maintenance and get a whole lot out of something. We live in a world now where so much stuff is just discarded and thrown away and made to be treated that way. The story of Andy Campbell, he buys this old, looking at it, kind of crappy Tercel back in whatever it was, 89. He buys a bunch of spare parts for it, and he manages to keep that thing rolling for 1.2 million kilometers. I've never heard of anything even near that.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask a question here, though.
Okay.
And you answer honestly to me.
Sure.
no matter how you feel about Andy and how nice he seems and whatever else you think about him, I know you've already pre-saluted him and tipped your hat as well to him, but is this still the same car if he's changed that many parts of it and replaced that much of it over the years?
That's a good question.
Can you argue that this car has 1.2 million kilometers on it when he's replaced 99% of it other than the frame?
I will accept your question, and I will take it seriously and respond. Now, if you read the entire article and learn a lot about what Andy's done, almost every component of that car has been replaced at least once, and that's how it has to happen. I do believe it is still the same car. Tell me this. My grandmother, who was on this show, I think 2 episodes ago talking about ice cream, she's about to turn 95 in a couple weeks. And just the way a human body works, as it grows, it sheds skin, you cut your hair, all this stuff. My grandmother's, in a human body, it's kind of changing over time. Like, is there anything on you right now that's been there since, you were 10 years old, do you think? I guess your bones were, right?
Yeah, all of it.
No, it's
I mean,
all
the
different.
skin, the skin, I can argue or agree with
Hair.
you, actually. That, yes, hair, skin, but your heart, your bones, your organs, all of these things
I guess
have been there the whole time. This guy has replaced the heart. He's replaced the intestines. He's replaced the kidneys. He's replaced pretty much all of it except for the shoulders and the knees, like that's pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the knees in the context of the car analogy, the knees would be like the ball joints or something. They've been replaced a ton of times. Yeah. How about this then? Yeah, that's so you've won the first round of this. How about, let's think about a band. So they got a singer, bass player, guitar player, drummer. They release an album. It's awesome. The next album comes out. It's a different guitar player. Still the same band. The next album comes out. Drummer dropped off. They got a new guy playing drums. Still the same band. When it gets to the point that there are no original members left, is it still the same band?
No.
Yeah, it's hard, eh? It's like, I guess, like on paper, like legally, it's still the same band, but really to a fan, it isn't. I wonder, I guess what it would come down to is what's the VIN on this car? Because the VIN is written on like where the windshield meets the dash. It's on the door frame. I guess at this point, he probably has several VINs on the car. A VIN is the vehicle identification number. But if you look at the registration, the government must have given some kind of VIN or settled on something. I don't, if they kept the same VIN as when he bought it in 89, I guess legally in a court of law, it's still the same car.
Sure.
But I think I'm seeing it your way.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Now I will tip my hat to him. I will salute him. I will Canadian French kiss him over the fact that he has bought this car and over the years has replaced everything pretty much. And that takes a great deal of dedication and skill and just all around know-howedness.
Probably a bit of stubbornness too.
Sure, but all great qualities.
Oh yeah, there's definitely some people in his life that are like, just get a new car with a warranty.
Sure. But I like that vintage Tercel though. I love the look of that car, the one that he has, and he has 2 of them.
Yeah, he did. Well,
and they're identical.
Yeah, it is. It's one of them was in 85, one was in 86, but they did look the same color. And it's funny when you look at an 85, 86 Tercel, it's this big boxy thing. It's almost starting to look like a Cybertruck or something. Like it's got these like hard edges. When I saw it drive out, I was like, it almost looks futuristic. It's so retro.
Yeah, but I love the look of those cars from the 80s, those Tercels, and they were tough cars. But I do think at the end of the day, this is not the same car and would have a different brain, a different personality, wouldn't even remember being purchased because their brain has been replaced.
Well, I wonder if the odometer was replaced.
I don't know.
Because that would change everything.
Probably not.
Yeah, for people who are listening and don't see the news clip, at one part of the news clip, to prove what's going on, like on his odometer right now, it reads like, I don't know, 230,000 kilometers. But he carries with him photographs that he took and developed, showing like when it was reading 999,999, when it turned over to 00000. So he just carries proof. So is the fact that his car has 1.2 million kilometers his whole personality? Maybe, but if so, I still tip my hat to this guy. You said you would tip your hat and kiss him and everything, but you sounded a little sarcastic.
No. I'll kiss him.
Are we unanimous in the Keep Canada Weird salute for Andy Campbell and his 1.2 million kilometer Tercel?
Yeah, I salute it. I salute the effort. The only thing I have issue with is saying it's the same car.
Okay. Yeah, I can support that. I think we, despite our differences, at least we settled on saluting this man, and I'm happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
With all that behind us, though, I think this has been a fascinating week of weird Canadian news. I've loved the stories tonight. Stories about Canadians doing ridiculous things, WTF style stories. It's all right in my wheelhouse. This has been a great episode, and I feel like we accomplished something really important tonight, Aaron.
We did. And it was very nice where the two of us can disagree and often come to a middle ground after some spirited and friendly and respectful debate. This show is continuing to be positive, no matter how many bands there are out there.
Mm-hmm. I want to give a bit of a production update. This is episode 176, which most people will be hearing on August 15th. I will let everyone know right now that next week will not be a weekly Weird News Roundup episode due to Aaron's improv and related matters. We will, however, next week be releasing the next Keep Canada Weird mailbag. You still have a bit of time to get your voicemails in if you have something to say. Go to nighttimepodcast.com/contact and send us a voicemail saying whatever you like. If you like the show, let us know. If you don't like it, let us know. If you want to dunk on Andy Campbell's car, let us know. And if you want to tell us about a senior citizen in your life and their ice cream habits, we'd like to hear that. We'd love to hear dating stories. We'd love to hear about tires. Anything else?
That's it.
That's
seniors
the
eating ice cream. Keep Canada romantic dating profiles. And what was the third thing you said?
Tires.
Tires.
Why not?
Forget tires. Yeah, how could we forget tires? Definitely tires.
And the only other thing I'll say before we put a bow on this tonight is I'm doing a massive merch and apparel clear out sale. I'm getting rid of a whole bunch of designs of shirts and mugs and everything else. So it's in order to make that happen, it's the biggest sale there has ever been, the lowest prices there has ever been on Nighttime and Keep Canada Weird related apparel. If you go to nighttimepodcast.com, click on the store, it'll bring up a whole selection of things. And right now it's dirt cheap while supplies last. The sale goes till Sunday. If you want to look a bit cool for go back to school, check it out. With all that said, handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan, bus stop, backhoe, Bonaparte, until next time.
If something horrible's going on, if it seems apocalyptic, if you're scared, just look up at the sky. And if you see an osprey, it's already too late.
And Jordan, until next time, also when you look up in the sky, if you see something magical and you want to tell people about it, and especially alert the news about it, just remember, it's definitely a bug.
Well said. I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you've got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you can email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, Unicole for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
And keep Canada weird. Please keep Canada weird.